Sound Mind and Body is supported by My Body Tutor. Lose weight, look great, and get the confidence you deserve with your own weight loss coach that will help you stick to your weight loss plan by providing daily and personal accountability like no other service in the world. For $50 off your first month, mention Sound Mind and Body when calling 516-456-6248 or by visiting mybodytutor.com. Sound Mind and Body is also brought to you in part by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/inbound.
Hello, and welcome to Sound Mind and Body, a podcast where we interview inspiring people on the many different ways to stay healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. Today, we'll be focusing on the family side of life and how many people are choosing alternative options to the traditional family makeup. Our guest today is Sarah Fain. She is a successful TV writer and producer here in Los Angeles and the co-host of an amazing podcast, Happier in Hollywood, which she does with her writing partner and BFF, Liz Craft. And if that's not enough to consider her superwoman, today she will be talking about her choice to become an only parent. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So excited to have you here. So, congratulations, first of all, on your series being picked up. You and Liz are writers and producers along with Marcia Clark on a new series called The Fix.
Yes, it was just picked up to series by ABC after a long and grueling process of writing the pilot and making the pilot and waiting to hear if it was going to go. So we couldn't be more thrilled and relieved because just the idea of it not going is just too horrible. So
I know. And plus, listeners can follow that whole process on your podcast because you were doing your podcast weekly and talking about the whole process. And it was so cool to me because I felt like I was with you on the, shooting the pilot. It was so exciting.
Oh, cool. And it was fun for us because we really got to, now we have this whole record of everything leading up to it, it'll be really fun to look back on that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And then you also are really, the Happier in Hollywood podcast, I just want to say before we get into our topic, how helpful it is not only for people who want to be in the industry, but just for everybody, and it's not just for everybody living in Hollywood. It's for everybody. You have great tips on there, all kinds of good guests with a lot of different topics, but especially for people who want to get into the entertainment biz.
Yes, we do try and keep it universal and have things that apply to everyone everywhere. But if you want to work in Hollywood in any capacity, it's definitely something you should listen to.
Definitely.
We think.
Well, I think so. I mean, I'm like, gosh, I wish I was younger and wanted to get in the business. I'd be listening to this. I'd be like, I wish you guys were around before. So, okay, what we're going to talk about today is your decision to have a child on your own. Mm-hmm. And you are one of my clients at Inform Fitness.
Yes.
And so we talk about all these things all the time. And through the course of us knowing each other, you had told me that you have your daughter who is almost 6, mm-hmm. right? Violet. And we talk about her a lot. And then you had told me that you chose to have her on your own. Like, it took a while for us to get to that point because I was like, well, is she divorced? Is she married? Is she, and then finally you're like, no, I just chose her to have her. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And then you had said how you were a choice parent or a choice only parent. And to me, that was really empowering because I raised my son, Michael, alone.
Yeah.
And I always considered myself a single mom. It's like the thought of being a single mom is like so victimizing. It's so like disempowering. And when you said that term, choice parent or only parent, that made me feel like, gosh, I wish I had heard that years ago and been so like, it's empowering, you know?
Yeah, well, it's reframing. You and I both really like Gretchen Rubin. And reframing is one of the most powerful things that we can do, to think about something in a new way, to turn it into something maybe that isn't great mentally for us into something really positive and powerful.
Yes,
I'm all for reframing.
I am all for reframing too. That's a great thing. So, all right, tell me that journey. How did you come to that decision? Because it's a huge decision. You're a very successful writer and producer in Hollywood, totally busy career. So
yes, very busy. And I think that is part of what led me to this place where suddenly I was in my mid-30s and I wasn't married, because I really spent the first part of my adult life focusing on my job. And I think that's very common now. So many women are so focused on work, and I certainly was. And it was great. I was so happy with what I was doing professionally, but I didn't meet anyone. And you sort of think, oh, well, I'll just magically meet the guy. He'll be there.
Right.
And he wasn't. Liz met her husband in the writer's room of The Shield.
Right.
But there wasn't the other guy there.
Your guy wasn't there.
My guy was not sitting next to him. So I started thinking about becoming a mom on my own in my mid-30s, and at first got a lot of resistance from friends and family saying like, no, it'll happen. Mm-hmm. He'll come along, you'll meet someone, you should wait. And I would say that is the one regret I have in the whole thing. I wish I had just done it, because I didn't think it was going to happen at that point. And, it happens when you least expect it. It could always happen anytime, blah, blah, blah. But I do wish that I had just said, no, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it now. Uh-huh. But of course, then I would have a different kid, and that would be tragic. So it all works out. But I found myself, there are biological realities when you're a woman. There is a certain point at which you're not going to have a kid anymore.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, I'm not married. I'm not going to be married in time to have a kid with someone. So if I'm going to do it, I have to do it on my own. And then it becomes this, once you make that decision, which is just huge in and of itself.
Yeah.
Then you have to figure out how you're going to do it. What's great is there are so many amazing ways to start a family now.
Really?
You can you can adopt internationally. You can adopt domestically, through the Department of Family Services, Department of Children and Family Services, or just, domestic open adoption using an adoption attorney. I looked into everything and ultimately decided that having a child with donor sperm was kind of the right fit for me. But it was a long process. It took me a couple of years to kind of figure it out and explore all the options. And I almost did an international adoption and then ended up just deciding, you know what, I need something I have more control over, because it can be so emotionally crushing.
Oh, really? Like how? Like you could be waiting for this child and then it just doesn't happen at the last minute, or?
Yeah. And I don't even, it's like, there are so many ways everything can go wrong, and then ultimately it goes right. And you just kind of have to find the way, look at all the different ways there are to do it, and do the one that feels
right for you
and your heart. Yeah.
But I see what you mean, that if you choose to have the donor sperm and you're carrying the child and everything, you do have more control over that.
You do, but then, it took me almost 2 years to get pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
It was a really fraught process.
So what?
It's all hard.
So that's like, it's all very hard. And it was probably very emotional too, because when you're trying to get pregnant with, all right, let's start with this.
Okay.
How do you select the donor sperm? How do you select that?
It sounds sort of frivolous, but it's sort of like shopping online.
Oh, really? I like it.
It's like the biggest decision you've made in your whole life, right? But you're basically just going online, and there are all sorts of different cryobanks, which is sperm bank. And so you pick the one that you want to work with. And I cast a wide net. I kind of looked at all the donors that are available at all of them. But you pick a website of a cryobank, and they have all the listings, and you have to pay to get access to information.
Okay.
And there are different levels of payment for more and more information. And I wanted the maximum amount of information possible.
I see. So information meaning like, the genetics and the family history and things like that.
Yes.
You pay more to get the full story.
Yes.
Ah,
yes.
Okay.
So I got a tremendous amount of information.
Can you choose somebody who has like a college degree and things like that? Can you choose that stuff?
Yes, you can. Really, you can sort of prioritize what is most important to you. For me, it was a family history with no Alzheimer's disease, because I have that on my side. I was like, I don't want that.
Yes.
And then it was just sort of, is this someone who I feel like I would like?
How do you tell that? By the information? Did they tell
write
you
essays?
Oh, you're kidding.
You can hear audio interviews.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can really get a lot of information on people. And, you're trusting that it's accurate information. But if you go to a reputable cryobank, it's a pretty intensive process to be able to become a sperm donor. So you're kind of putting some faith in their process.
Right.
But you get a lot of information. I have childhood pictures. I have like an audio recording. Yeah.
So when you heard the audio recording, were you just kind of going with your feeling about that person?
Yeah, it's just kind of a gut thing. It really is. I guess like it would be if you were deciding to have a kid with a spouse,
right? It's
like,
true. It's like
it's a leap of faith.
I think it's even more, but it's actually a little better to choose it the way you did, because a lot of times when you just go with your, I'm attracted to this person, which is what happened with me, and then you end up an only parent. You're I didn't go through that.
You're not thinking, what's your medical history?
I should have gone through the process a little more.
Right. Yes, totally.
I just kind of lucked out. He's a good dad, but it's like, oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah. So you basically just pick online, and then you can have, it's kind of odd, you can have sperm shipped to you in a big nitrogen tank. In my case, the cryobank was near my doctor, so I just went and picked it up, the big nitrogen tank, and buckled it into the passenger seat of my car.
Oh my God.
It's not romantic. I will say that. It is not a romantic way to have a child.
First?
I know, I should have taken the tank out for a nice dinner first, but I didn't. Oh
my God.
And then you just, you're like walking into the doctor with this big silver nitrogen tank, like, hey, everybody. I was walking down Olympic Boulevard at one point with like a big nitrogen tank of sperm. But
oh my God. So, and then you have to have it, in vitro. Is it?
Yeah.
And that's a process that you have to go through, like hormonal things first, or you have to take some hormones, or what do you have to do?
Same thing there. There's so many ways to do it. If you're, 32 and you're doing this, you could just do IUIs, and that's, wouldn't have to be medicated probably. And it would be fairly simple and fairly inexpensive. But I did 9 medicated IUIs. I did 8 medicated IUIs.
So what's an IUI?
Intrauterine insemination.
Oh, okay.
And
9.
Well, I did 8, and then I did IVF. That didn't work.
Oh, okay.
And then I was going to do IVF again, but I didn't have enough eggs to make it worthwhile. So I did my 9th IUI medicated, and that worked.
Oh my God.
And it was at the point at which I was just like, this is ridiculous. This is never going to happen. I didn't even take pregnancy tests at home. I was just like, this is pointless. I give up. I went out to dinner. I had wine. I was just
That's
like,
why.
this is the end. It's ridiculous. I'm giving up. And then that was
the one.
Yeah.
That's when Violet said, all right, I'm coming in.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So how long of a period? You said that was a couple years?
Almost. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
So back to your career. So you've got this successful, very, high-end career where you have to be present and everything, and you're taking different jobs at different times. Yeah. So what did that mean for your career to make this decision? How did it affect it, or what did you have to think about?
Well, I'm very lucky because I have a writing partner. Mm-hmm. And it was great because when I needed to go to appointments, first of all, I would go to them so early in the morning.
Oh, gosh.
REs, reproductive endocrinologists, which is the doctor that you work with when you're having difficulty getting pregnant, which I was. They work very early hours.
Really?
You feel bad for them because you're like, God, every day you have to do this. They work very early and they work on the weekends. They, whenever people are ready to
fertile, or
those eggs are coming out, then you have to be there. So,
oh my gosh.
So I had very early appointments and then I would go into work. So I was just tired, really. And it's emotionally grueling. But I always felt like, well, if I have to be late, Liz is there.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of decided early on that I was going to do what I had to do and I wasn't going to feel bad about it. And
you weren't going to be like, feeling sorry for yourself or something if it was difficult road.
Right. And
that's good.
And during that, the bulk of that process, or a lot of it, we were developing. So we weren't going into an office every day.
I see. Yeah.
Or into a show every day, at least. We were going into our own office. So we would just start a little later. We would start at 10 instead of 9 or 9:30. And,
Now, were you emotionally affected by this? Were there times where you were just like, I can't deal? And
yeah, I think after the 6th or 7th IUI, I found out that I had polyps in my uterus and that everything up until that point had been pointless because it never could have worked. So it was, tens of thousands of dollars probably at that point. And I had to have a procedure. And because of that, I had to wait another 2 months.
To do more, to continue.
Yeah. And I came home from that appointment and I called Liz. I was like, I'm not coming in today. I'm staying in bed and crying all day. She was like, okay. And the next day I called her again and I was like, I am also not coming in today. I'm staying in bed and crying all day.
Oh my God.
That was the worst of it.
Yeah.
I had those 2 crying days and then things started to kind of
turn around,
come together again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick ad break. And when we come back, we'll talk about how it was going through the pregnancy.
Okay.
And
the good
more.
part.
The good part.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. Just the fact that you're listening to the Sound, Mind, and Body podcast tells us that you enjoy consuming your content through your ears. Now, if you're a podcast listener, you're a perfect fit to enjoy audiobooks. So for you, our listeners and official members of Sheila's Whoo-Whoo community, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their awesome service. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's absolutely free for 30 days, and you get a free audiobook to keep even if you don't continue with the subscription. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound. That's audibletrial.com/inbound. We'll include a link in the show notes, or just click the Audible banner at soundmindbodypodcast.com.
Hey everyone, Sheila here to tell you about a very special offer from My Body Tutor, a weight loss program that is 100% guaranteed. Yes, you heard that right, 100% guaranteed. I interviewed Adam Gilbert, founder of My Body Tutor, on episode 19. And I was so impressed with this program that I asked Adam how we could work together. And he is now offering our listeners $50 off the first month. Plus, he offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you really have nothing to lose except some of that stubborn weight. And you know you want to lose those few pounds, right? I certainly did. I signed up, and after 1 week, I lost 2 pounds. I'm so excited. So try it. Go to mybodytutor.com and sign up. Tell them Sound Mind and Body referred you, and you will immediately be credited $50. Or go to the show notes on this podcast, and the link will be there. And it's also on my website, soundmindbodypodcast.com. Let me know if you're signing up. We'll do this together. mybodytutor.com. On the next episode of Sound Mind and Body, I talk to energy healer and body therapist Milen Aldrich.
People that are seeking greater consciousness or just a change because they feel stagnant in their life. Like, this is not working for me, and I'd like to be able to travel. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to have more fun. And where is the song that I had in my heart when I was younger? And you know what I mean? All these little things that are like, you grow up and then you find yourself later and you're not happy, and you know, you're seeking greater for your life. And that's where
I come in.
Bye.
That's next week on Sound Mind and Body. Okay, we're back, and we are talking to TV writer and producer Sarah Fain about her choice to become an only parent. So before the break, you had gone through the whole process of getting pregnant, and which is a whole process. And so how was it being pregnant during your pregnancy? What were the feelings you were having?
It was so great.
Really?
It was great.
Oh.
I think up until that point in my life, it was probably the happiest I'd ever been.
Oh my gosh.
I had food aversion.
That's nice.
Don't even say chicken around me when I'm pregnant. But I didn't have a ton of morning sickness.
Oh, good.
A little, but not a ton. It was more like every day our assistant would come in and say, like, what do you want for lunch? And I'd be like, oh, Jesus. Oh God, now I have to think about this again.
Yeah.
Just the torture of contemplating food. But then once I figured something out, it would be fine. But I felt really good.
Oh, cool.
I had crazy swollen ankles.
Oh, no.
Toward the end. But being pregnant was fantastic. It was the only time in my life I never worried about like what my stomach looked like in clothes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was just
exactly.
like, it's huge.
Because I'm pregnant.
Yeah. So being pregnant was delightful. And I never had that sense of like, oh, I want somebody to go get me ice cream, or, like all those things that you sort of stereotypically think if you're married, someone is going to go out and get you this or kind of coddle your cravings. And, I really didn't feel that way. Toward the very end, I really wanted to be going on a lot of walks to kind of get things moving along.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel comfortable walking by myself.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the only time where I was like, trying to recruit friends to come and walk with me, but during the day when everyone's at work. And so that was the only time when I kind of felt, a little bit isolated.
Yeah.
Like there are things that I would be doing, but let's face it, if I was married, my husband would have been at work. So
That's
probably
true.
would have been the same. But that was the only time when I had that sense, really.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so when you did you plan the birth, or did you actually just wait and go into labor?
I planned it. I read every book that is possible to read about natural childbirth.
Oh, love it.
I had a midwife and a doula. And then Violet was 8 days late. I went in to see my midwife. She said, the baby is huge.
Oh my God.
And you don't have a lot of amniotic fluid. I'd like you to have a C-section tonight.
What?
And I was like, well, if your midwife tells you to have a C-section,
yes,
you have a
then
C-section.
you better go do it. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So all my planning was for naught. But then, I just had the C-section and it was fine. Violet had a bit of an infection after she was born. So she had a fever and had to do antibiotics for 4 days, and it was frightening.
Yeah.
But then she was fine.
Now, was your family there?
Yes. My dad and my stepmom came in the day after she was born. I called when I was going in. I was like, I'm having a C-section now, so you better get in the car.
Now.
And they did. They drove in from Arizona and got there when she was a day old.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah, and I had postpartum doulas. I think, one thing, if you're doing it on your own, some people feel like they don't need a lot of support. I was just like, I sort of use my only parenthood as an excuse to get whatever I need.
That's great.
So I was like, I want a postpartum doula day and night.
Yeah.
For the first, I think I had not round the clock help, but a lot of help for the first few weeks. And my dad and my stepmom were there.
Perfect.
Good. Yeah. So I had a lot of support.
Yeah. And were you feeling, you're just like elated when your child is born, right?
Yeah.
You're just like in love and
Yep.
so wonderful. And
yeah. And she was, so cute. And she was an easy baby. She wasn't colicky really or anything. She was just,
did you breastfeed?
Pure delight. I did.
Do you mind if I ask?
I did, but that's also part of why I wanted postpartum doulas, because I was like, it's that thing where you have to do it every 3 hours and you don't get any sleep, and to get things kind of rolling.
Right.
So having that help, particularly at night, because I was literally delusional at that point. I just had a C-section. I was.
I know.
I was like, I would. Very this horrible kind of painful, cumbersome way, get myself out of bed and wander into the nursery, which was, thank God, only like 10 feet away. And the doula would be sitting there like, why aren't you sleeping? And I'd be like, because you called me. She was like, no, I didn't call you. This is sleeping time. And I was just like, ugh. Yeah, but it was fun and great.
That's so good. And then so did you have a nanny after that? Because how much time did you have before you had to get back into the rat race and go back to work?
Well, it was really great because, again, to the writing partner thing, we were on a show and Liz went into the show every day. And we were also doing a pilot. So when Violet was 3 weeks old, our assistant started coming to my house and I started working on the pilot with her and breaking the pilot with her. So we just sort of divided and conquered.
Oh, great.
So I was working from the time Violet was 3 weeks old, but it was in this very casual, in my living room, kind of working around the baby. And our poor assistant, at least, saw more of my boobs than anyone would ever need to see of their boss's boobs. But we got a lot of work done on the pilot, and it all, it all worked out.
It all worked out.
And that pilot got made. It did not get picked up to series, but it did get made.
So now Violet is almost 6.
Yes.
And she's adorable. You've done so many things with her since I've known you. Like one of the things you did last year, which I admired you so much for, was you decided to go camping. And you just got all this stuff and you went camping with Violet. And
Tent camping.
And I was like, oh my God, I never would have done anything like that. So not only are you an only parent and, but you're crushing it. You are like, you take her to Disneyland, like, at least 2-3 times a year. You're always doing great things with her. Are there any situations where you're like feeling like, oh, I really miss having a partner? Do you think about it often or?
I don't think about it very often. I think this is the part where I get a little emotional.
Oh, no.
I think there are so many good parts about being an only parent. And the time that I've been a parent the last 6 years and, you know, being pregnant before that has been the happiest time of my life.
Yeah.
So I don't kind of wish for anything else to have been there. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just really happy with our life and our family. And I think because I went into it with so much intention and because it was so hard to get there, I'm just really happy that I did it. And it's not like every day is sunshine and roses.
No.
There are hard aspects of it for sure.
But that's with everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
if you're married or doesn't matter.
Yeah. And we were talking about this the other day. Like, I don't have like a sense of the grass is greener.
Right.
I don't feel like, oh, if I were married, this would be easier or this would be that. Or like, I think if at some point I met the right person and got married, that would be great.
Right.
But so many people are married to the not right person.
Yeah.
And there are so many upsides to being single and being an only parent. I get to make every decision.
Right.
I get to do everything I want to do.
It's kind of a nice feeling.
It is not having to, compromise
Or argue with somebody about
or
something.
argue. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very nice. And I think it is in many ways a lot easier to do it on your own. That said, once Violet goes to bed, I can't go to the grocery store.
Yes, exactly.
There are sort of logistical things.
Right.
That like when I have family come to town, I'm like, I'm going out. She's asleep. I don't know where I'm going. But I don't have that sense of like we're missing out on something or like I wish I had something else.
I think that's because you chose to do this. Because when I was, a single mom, I was telling you the other day how I every problem became, like, I'm a single mom. Right. I'd be like, I couldn't find his shoe one morning. And then I'm like, just rushing around and everything.
Yeah.
I'm a single mom, and it was just like, oh God, what an excuse, and because I didn't even the concept of that I chose this, which I did.
Yeah.
I ultimately did choose this.
Absolutely.
Didn't really come to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful way to look at it.
Yeah. I will say there are moments like when she was a baby and I would just be staring at her and thinking about how cute she was. I did wish that there was someone else who could stare at her and think about how cute she was
exactly
the same way
like
as
you.
me.
Yes.
That's
true.
And like for stupid stuff, like I was trying to decide which bus stop she should take to school. I was like, why isn't there someone who can help me with this decision? But,
Yeah. It's like you try to talk to your friends about it and they're like, well, what?
Yeah. And it's like, why is this the hard one?
Yeah. It's kind of strange things where it comes up. Yeah. Little things. So does Violet ever say anything like about, noticing that you're that you're an only parent, that she doesn't have a dad or another mom or, does she talk about it?
She does. Not a lot, but I've been talking about it since she was very small. We have books about it.
Oh, okay.
So it's just sort of part of what she's used to. But she does sometimes say, because all of her friends or most of her friends have dads, a lot of them have 2 mom families and some 2 dad families.
That's cool.
But she will say like, I wish I had a dad. And she'll occasionally try, like she'll kind of pretend like we went to Disneyland with a friend of hers and the friend's dad. And she was like, let's pretend that you're my dad and my mom is Alex's, I shouldn't say the name, and my mom is your mom. And, she kind of experiments with that. But that lasted, half an hour and then it was just a fun day. So it's something that she kind of has to
She's growing up with
and,
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you're open and you tell her everything. And
–
So one more interesting thing before we get to you, but, to the questions. So you connected with some of Violet's siblings.
Yes.
Can you tell that story? I just think it's amazing.
Yeah. So what happened is There is an organization called the Donor Sibling Registry. And if you have a child with a donor, you can register there and get connected to other people who have used the same donor. And through the Donor Sibling Registry, someone reached out to me, another mom who used the same donor, and said, oh, we have a Facebook group. Would you like to join the Facebook group? And this was when Violet was very small. She was, months old. And I was like, oh, okay. I sort of never thought about the whole donor sibling thing. It just wasn't something I thought about.
Right.
I thought, when she's 18, she can meet the donor if she wants to, if he's open to it. But I don't have to think about that for a long time.
Right.
But then this happened. I joined the Facebook group.
Now, was this multiple donors or?
This is one donor.
One donor has his own freaking Facebook group.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, it's not his, it's the mom's.
Yeah,
yes.
but I know. Oh my God.
Yeah. And at the time there were 13 kids.
Wow.
And I found that really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it and then I just sort of shut it off and thought, I don't want to deal with this for like 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
But one day I I took Violet to a new music class in the Valley. And 2 women walked into the class with 2 little boys who looked nothing alike. So I thought it was, friends with kids the same age. And over the course of this, toddler music class, Violet was 18 months old, I kind of figured out, the moms are co-parenting. They're a couple and the boys are twins. And then I thought, they used a donor. That's so nice. And then I thought, one of the boys looks familiar.
Oh, no.
And another emotional moment. And Violet and the 2 boys just kind of glommed onto each other in the class in this way that kids that age don't.
Yeah.
And they were Violet went and sat in the corner and one of the boys went and put his arm around her.
Oh my gosh.
And they just really kind of just connected. And again, this one of them looked really familiar. And I was like, well, I know he's not in her My Gym class. I know he's not in this other class she takes. Why would this toddler look familiar to me? And I thought, because I saw him on the Facebook group.
Oh, no.
And I almost said to the moms, does blah, 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 the donor number mean anything to you?
Yeah.
Then I was like, that would be too weird. But then I went home after the class and I went to the Facebook group again, and there they were.
Oh my gosh.
And so I sent them a message like, hey, we were just in music class together. And they sent me a message back like, whoa, that's so crazy. And, now we're very close to them. It's been years now and, we see them all the time. They're coming to Violet's birthday dinner on Thursday. It's just, they're part of our lives.
That is so cool.
Yeah. They live 1.5 miles from us. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yes. Fate.
The modern family.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, this stuff probably happened before, but it's we weren't so connected and it wasn't so accepted that you could actually do this. You know what I mean? And just be like, hey, I'm going to be a mom, I love it. I love the story. So, so let's talk a little bit more about you. I want to ask you all my sound, mind, and body questions.
Oh, yay. Okay.
So how do you stay through all this crazy life you have with a lot of responsibility? How do you stay of sound, mind, and body?
Well, I wish I could say I meditated every day. That is my goal, but I don't. I know you do, and I admire it so much.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I know, right? I should be able to do that. I eat as healthily as it's possible for me to eat. I don't eat gluten and I don't eat sugar. And I have a really good doctor whose office is near my house who I really like.
That's great.
So I see her regularly and get whatever kind of tuning up I need. For me, having that proximity is really important, and having a doctor I like, so I'll go there, is really important.
Oh, yeah. That is so true.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's a favorite sound?
My favorite sound is rain through trees.
Oh, that's nice.
I love that one.
Rain through trees. I've heard rain. I haven't heard rain through trees. That's lovely. on the little leaves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lovely sound. Okay, favorite memory.
My favorite memory, again, totally gonna cry.
Oh.
I knew I was gonna cry, Sheila.
I'm sorry. You're going to make me cry.
My favorite memory is more like a period of time. When Violet was 7 to 9 months old, I was shooting a pilot. Liz and I were shooting a pilot in Hungary. And we went, and my parents went, my dad and my stepmom.
Oh.
Shit.
It's okay. Take a sip of water.
Coffee. You think I'm drinking water?
Oh, it's iced coffee.
Yeah. Okay. We went to Hungary. Violet was 7 months old, and we were there until she was 9 months old to shoot this pilot.
Wow.
And my dad and my stepmom came, and we all lived in this apartment. This was a great apartment in Budapest. And it was incredibly stressful, and I was monstrously sleep deprived the entire time. But it was, I think, one of the happiest times of my life. It was really fun.
Oh.
So that's my favorite memory.
Sounds wonderful. I'd love to go to Budapest. Okay, favorite place.
My favorite place is my family has a house on a lake in northern Minnesota on Lake Vermilion.
Oh, yes.
And we've been there for 60 years, which is longer than I've been alive. I just want to state for the record.
Way longer.
But I've been going there my whole life, and it's my favorite place.
Wow. So, and you also manage that place, basically, right?
Yes,
That's another thing. Add to your list of superwoman.
because I don't have
duties.
enough to do. I have 3 rental cabins, and yeah.
Oh my gosh, it sounds gorgeous. I've seen some pictures. It looks amazing. Okay, final question. What's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done?
I've done some seriously woo-woo stuff. I like seeing psychics, and I like, doing spiritual counseling and all of that stuff. So I would have to say the most woo-woo thing I've done is consulting with an animal communicator.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
why did you consult with an animal communicator?
Because I was doing a pilot out of town, and I just wanted my dogs to sort of know why I was gone.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really fascinating. And actually, it was really nice because I had 3 dogs, and one of them died. And my favorite dog of all time, Daisy, communicated that sometimes the dog who died would come around, and Daisy would tell her to go away because they did not get along. And she wanted to know if I was okay with that.
Oh my
Because she felt bad. And I told her that it was fine. I was like, Daisy, it's okay.
Oh my gosh.
If you don't want Chloe to come around in Chloe spirit form, you can tell her to go away.
Wow.
So yeah, that is
it.
definitely the most woo-woo.
That's a woo-woo. That's a pretty, I have not heard that yet, too. That is a really woo-woo thing. But we just had Marla Freeze on.
Yes.
Who you know.
She came on Happier in Hollywood. Yes.
And she said one of the things she does every day when she goes for her hike, she sees dogs, people who have their dogs, and the dogs communicate with her.
Oh, that's so great.
And that's one of her things that she loves every day. So great. So I love this. Oh, Sarah, this has been a really eye-opening and very interesting conversation.
Well, it's been so fun. I've been really looking forward to this. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. Well, that's it for this episode. And that was such an interesting conversation with Sarah about a new way of parenting. And I think it's just empowering and wonderful. So let us know if you have a story like that. Are you an only parent? Are you a choice parent? Or are you a traditional parent that feels like there's really no difference? Send us an email or voice memo to soundmindbodypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like the podcast, give us a review on iTunes. It really helps new listeners find us. Thank you to our producer, Tim Edwards, and the Inbound Podcasting Network. And thank you to our guest, Sarah Fain. Get in touch. I'm on Instagram at Sound Mind Body Podcast, or find us on Facebook or the web. Search for Sound Mind Body Podcast. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.